Nduka almost drowned, but Enkay helped him swim out of the water. Their next encounter was a treacherous one. Immediately they crossed to the other side of the river. Everything behind them disappeared, and they appeared in a dark, thick forest. They became so scared and came close to one another to protect themselves. They came across a deadly and scary creature, which they had to defeat to continue their journey. The creature came to attack them, so they had to fight and defeat it. Once upon a time, there lived a young man named Nduka. Nduka was the first son of his parents. He had 4 younger siblings, 2 brothers and 2 sisters, and they all grew up in a small hut. His father was a shoemaker, while his mother was a petty trader, and they barely raised enough to feed their family. Nduka's parents tried their best, but their best wasn't good enough, since they could barely provide their children with basic needs. When Nduka was a small boy, he watched his family grow in abject poverty, and he detested it so much. By the time he clocked 17, one night his parents woke him up and summoned him to the sitting room to have a word with him. He was surprised and wondered what the problem might be, as they had never done that before. His father said, "My son, I know you are aware of our predicament and how your mother and I struggled all these years to raise you and your siblings. We have worked so hard and we believe you've come of age to take over from us. We plan sending you to town to work for my old-time friend as an apprentice, and after your years of work, you will be paid." Nduka was confused. He was told that he was to work for 10 years to learn the trade from his father's old-time friend, Mazi Ibe. Then he would be settled financially and otherwise at the 10th year of his service. Being the first child of his parents, Nduka had always had this love and devotion to his family and was willing to go serve his master for 10 years to take his family out of poverty. The following week, Nduka set out to the city, waving his family goodbye and hopeful for the future. He boarded the first bus going to the city, and while he was going, he admired the great view and anticipated what his future would be like. On getting to the city, he located Mazi Ibe's house and was welcomed by other apprentices. He met his father's old-time friend for the first time, and the man looked fierce. Mazi Ibe was a fat, wealthy, and wicked-looking man who took no nonsense. He sat Nduka down and reminded him of what he was in the city for, so he was to act accordingly, else he wouldn't hesitate to send him back to his parents at the village. The next day, Nduka resumed work at Mazi Ibe's shop. Mazi Ibe was a popular fabric seller in the city. In fact, he was one of the biggest, as he usually imported his products from overseas. Nduka was amazed at how massive the shop was. He made up his mind to be as attentive as possible and learn the trade so that he could also make a name for himself like Mazi Ibe and lift his family out of abject poverty. Nduka worked so hard and diligently with his fellow apprentices, and over the years he became really good friends with them and learnt the trade. They would usually at their free time, both at home and at the shop, talk and crack jokes about life and how they can't wait to be done with their years of service with Mazi Ibe so they can be settled and start their lives. All the boys, including Nduka, were all from the same village as Mazi Ibe because he only groomed boys from his hometown. Nduka had spent 9 years and some months with Mazi Ibe, and just few months left for him to be paid off and go start his life, when all of a sudden, one day, Mazi Ibe summoned some of his apprentices and informed them that a huge amount of money was missing from his business. The young men were all surprised. How was that even possible? Mazi threatened them to provide his 10 million naira, else he would get them arrested. They couldn't believe it. It wasn't possible to lose that huge sum of money from the business without anyone noticing and pointing it out. The next day at the shop, they checked all the books in which they used to record all the sales they made to make sure that there was no missing money. and there was no single sign of any missing money. Besides, if anyone had stolen that huge amount of money, they would have run away with it. They reported back to Mazi Ibe to ask if he was sure, yet he insisted that he suspected Unduka and 3 other young men to be the culprits. They couldn't believe. He gave them a week to return back his money. By the end of the week, they were not able to provide it as they didn't have anything, so he threw them out, sent them back to the village and labeled them as thieves. It was at that point they realized that Mazi Ibe never had the intention of paying them off for their years of service, because the 4 young men, Unduka included, that he sent back home were soon to be done with their years of service. So accusing them of thefts was a way of dismissing them without having to pay them. He only took advantage of them and threw them out to suffer. The young men were so devastated. They felt their world crumbling. All their years of hard work was in vain. 10 years of service all gone in the wind. They regretted ever going to Mazi Ibe. Unduka's parents felt the pain of their son deeply. More than 9 years of his life was thrown into the drain. Before sending their son off to Mazi Ibe, there were rumors of how wicked and malicious Mazi was, and how he took advantage of people. But Unduka's father believed that since they were old-time friends, his son's case would be different. He never knew that Mazi Ibe had a heart of stone and didn't care about anyone other than himself. The 4 friends, Unduka, Amobi, Chijioke, and Ike, bonded over their grief, and many villagers sympathized with them. Unduka at this point was no longer a small boy. He was clocking 28 years, but didn't have the willpower or money to even start any business as he returned to the village with nothing. Unduka knew that no matter what had happened in the past, his parents still expected him to take charge and take his family out of poverty. He didn't know how else to go about it, and out of frustration one day, he went to the chief priest and told him all that had happened. The chief priest, on hearing it, felt pity for Unduka and his friends. He went further to tell him that there was a way out of poverty, but it was a very risky and deadly means. The chief priest opened up to him that there was a treasure box in a faraway place, kept there by their ancestors many years ago, and whoever was able to access it would become very wealthy. In order to get the box, you need to go on a journey called the Journey of No Return. He mentioned that many people had gone on that journey and tried to retrieve the box but were never successful, and they never came back. Unduka had never heard about the Journey of No Return and understood why it was called that, because anyone who had ever gone on the journey was never heard of again. Though that didn't deter him from wanting to go after it, because he had no other option. He was determined and went to tell his 3 other friends about it. Unduka and Chijioke were the bravest among the friends, so they succeeded in convincing Ike and Amobi to join them in the quest. They finally concluded with the chief priest to embark on the journey on the 4th day of that week. Even though their different families didn't want them going for the mission, they didn't let anyone convince them otherwise. On the day of the journey, the chief priest and the entire village wished them well, and they began their journey of no return by entering into another realm. On entering into it, the young men felt like something had overtaken them. They found themselves in a big open field, and they began their journey. They walked till night fell. They found a small hut and spent the night there. The next day, they began their journey again and got to a river with so much current, which they had to cross to get to the other side. Luckily, they all knew how to swim, so they got in and began swimming. Unduka almost drowned, but Ike helped him swim out of the water. Their next encounter was a treacherous one. Immediately they crossed to the other side of the river, everything behind them disappeared, and they appeared in a dark, thick forest. They became so scared and came close to one another to protect themselves. They came across a deadly, scary creature which they had to defeat to continue their journey. The creature came to attack them, so they had to fight and defeat it. Chijioke fought it and killed it. They came across another creature with one eye. They also defeated it. Several other creatures came out from their hiding in the forest, and the 4 men were able to defeat all of them through teamwork. Chijioke played a huge role in defeating all the creatures they came across, and he was commended by his friends. They were so grateful to him, and he started getting into his head. That night, they slept in an abandoned house, feeling very tired, and woke up the next morning ready for their next mission, when they suddenly realized that they were just 3 in number. Immediately, they realized that it was Chijioke that went missing. They wondered what must have happened to him, so they went about searching everywhere, but Chijioke was nowhere to be found. They kept looking around for hours but couldn't find him, so they had to move on with their lives and continue their quest, hoping to find him on their way. They encountered many more challenges and emerged victorious. In one of their encounters, they came across a big field which had so many wild animals of all kinds, and they needed to go across the field. It wouldn't have been possible to cross the field without getting killed, because the animals were too many to fight against. So instead of going like that, Unduka, who was the smartest of them all, suggested that they disguise themselves as animals and plants. So they went to camouflage themselves using leaves. While crossing the field, they recognized the body of Chijioke laying lifeless on the ground. It was obvious that he was mauled by the animals. They wondered how it all happened. They mourned their friend but had to carry on with their journey. They crossed the field of animals successfully. This was their final trial after numerous challenges they went through. They finally met an old man with a big shiny box before him. The chief priests had told them that when they had completed all their challenges, they would see an old man with a box full of treasures. So seeing the man brought tears of joy to their eyes. They couldn't believe that they had made it. What many others tried and failed, they succeeded. They quickly approached the elderly man, and he congratulated them for achieving such great feats. The young men also told the old man about their friend Chijioke, who they saw laying lifeless at the field of wild animals. But the man let them know that Chijioke was greedy, because he believed that he could take on all the missions alone, so he decided to go ahead of them when they were all sleeping in order to acquire the wealth alone. But unknown to him, it's teamwork that gets the job done, not greed. So when he got to the field of animals, he was attacked and couldn't survive it. Unduka and his friends all felt pity for him and wished he had been less greedy in order to enjoy the fruit of their labor. The man handed the box to them, filled with treasures and jewels of all kinds, and sent them off. Unduka, Amobi, and Ike found their way back to the place in which they came from and went back into the real world, eager to tell their families and the entire village about their journey of no return and how they conquered so many obstacles in just 1 week. People were shocked and surprised because they thought the boys had died. The villagers told them that they had even mourned them because it had been 5 years since they embarked on the journey, so everyone thought they were all dead. Unduka and his friends were all shocked. In the other realm, they had only spent a week, but in the real world, 5 years had gone by. They couldn't believe it. Their families welcomed them with open arms, and the entire village celebrated their victory. Unduka's long-time dream of being capable of providing for his family finally came true, and they had more than enough that they even began sharing to their neighbors who were also in need. The lessons to be learned from this story are never to give up in any of our endeavors, as when one door seems to close, another one will open. We should also learn not to let greed get the better part of us.
I hope you enjoyed watching this video. Please don't forget to give it a big thumbs up, comment, subscribe, and turn on your post notification to get notified when next I post a new video. Bye!